Shalom Aleichem, everyone. It's not Shalom Aleichem anymore, but nice to be talking to you again. So just to recap a little bit, on Friday morning, what? Well, I was going to wait for you, but before the Shia. Just kidding. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Friday morning, we spoke, the class was titled The Why Behind What Works. Now what works, we just spent the whole Shabbos hearing what works, and most of you already know what works. Before you came here, you didn't have to come here to hear about what works. And Baruch Hashem, what works, and it's nice to hear the success stories. It's so inspiring and so moving. And I myself and everyone should have their own success story and be able to tell it in public. Yeah, we need at least another such Shabbos. Everyone come back and say the success story, but after that, maybe it won't be necessary anymore, Mr. Hashem. So what works, and we spoke about why it works. And the reason why it works, we explained. We're talking about it more now again, just to recap in short. We explained that when a child is struggling, like we know how children struggle, unfortunately, it's obviously because of everything a child has been through, as well as the nature of the child, the personality, which was something fragile and something sensitive, which was the reason why different things affected a child in a certain way. And because of that personality, there's an emotional language that needs to be spoken, and that is what works. So going forward, when you have a question, when you're in doubt, how do I do it now? You always try to think of what's more emotional and less logical, and that's probably what's going to get through. That's going to be the schlüssel challah that works in the most challenging situations. So what I want to talk about now is something similar, right? It's along the same lines, but it's about understanding fragility. It's about understanding sensitivity before you see a broken glass. What we were talking about Friday was more about broken glass. You see a broken piece of glass, and sometimes you don't realize that it's glass. You think that it's just by circumstance that this thing broke and not something else, and then you realize that, yeah, there's something so sensitive behind it, and it really makes sense why this happened. But what about fragility and sensitivity before it breaks? What about before something is really broken? What about before something is that challenging that you're already trying to get help about it? Right? How do you see it earlier on, and how much could be avoided? With a lot of tefillin, how much could be avoided? All right, talking about prevention by understanding that which is susceptible. Today, people use the term at risk, right? Or I don't even know what at risk means anymore. When's at risk, when's post risk, and everything like that. But when I was discussing this idea once with Rabbi Zechariah Wallerstein, he said, "Oh, I think what you want to do is help people identify an at-risk baby." So he told me, a baby is born, and you're able to see on a baby that it's an at-risk baby. What does at-risk mean? At-risk is something that is at risk. When you buy something in the store and it says on it fragile, you don't say, hey, fragile, I don't need anything fragile. You give it back. You probably were looking for something that's actually fragile, and it's a good thing. And you just have to be aware. And if it wouldn't be labeled like that, then you wouldn't know. So that's what's so important to understand. Now, it would be nice if everything came in boxes like that, right? Come in a package, you have a baby, and by the time you go home, they give you a birth certificate, it's filled out, and they write on the bottom, fragile. Okay, so you know that it's fragile. Well, technically babies are fragile, and we know that, right? That they tell you not to shake the baby, shaking baby syndrome. And they give you like 10 papers to take home about that, just in case it's your first. Say, what, it's your 9th? Oh, and they get but they tell you not to shake a baby because it's fragile. But as babies grow older and become people, they become less fragile. And all of a sudden we take less care of them, which is normal. But some of them really are fragile. And some of them remain fragile. And some of them are going to be their whole life fragile, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with fragility. Fragility is beautiful. The things in this room that are the most fragile are the most beautiful things in this room. And things in this room that are the least fragile are probably what somebody should have thrown away before we came here tonight. Okay? So it's important to understand what that is and appreciate it for what it is and take care of it for what it is. Like I said, children aren't going to tell you this. Now, as a matter of fact, nobody will tell you this. Not a child, not an adult will tell you about themselves that they're fragile in any way. Just 2 weeks ago, I was doing B'tikas Chumetz at home. So, Klein Haro with a bunch of helpers, right? It's hard to give out all different jobs to everyone if you want everyone to follow you around the house. So one got a little bag to put in the bread, and one got a little paper to mark down how many pieces we have, and one got the feather, and one got the spoon, and one got the candle. Okay? So the one with the feather, a cute little boy, Klein Haro, rief zu Gruen mitten Weg, ich bin ein Säufer. Ich bin ein Säufer. Okay? I said, yeah, beautiful. Die bist der Säufer. So his little sister got jealous and said, and ich bin ein Löffel. It's cute when children identify themselves and they tell you about what they are and what they're thinking. It's beautiful. But very often they don't tell you that. As a matter of fact, there's a reason why they can't tell you that, and that's because they don't know it about themselves. It's so hard for a person to identify himself and understand himself correctly. It's so hard for somebody to tell you, you know, my way of thinking and my way of feeling is like this and this and this and this. What do you mean? I feel like everyone else, right? How would I know not? And especially children, there's no way they should know that you're not guessing what they're thinking. They don't know that you weren't a child so recently, and they don't know that you were a different kind of child than they were. So it's very hard when it comes to identifying people correctly to understand what it really means. And it would be beautiful if people could help us identify them, and they do. So let me tell you why it's so important to understand this. I'm not gonna start off by saying that I feel intimidated or that I'm competing against so many good speakers over here, which is simple, such a Shabbos of information. But what I will say is that being here this Shabbos, we heard so much. I've been by other Shabbosim. You hear a nice word, you hear a nice pshat, a nice story, a good joke, some inspiration, well, you know, it's nice. There's always room for more. Somebody said something nice, next guy said something else nice. And by the time you finish the speech, how was it? It was great. What did he say? I don't know, something so profound. Could you say something about it? I think it was about chinuch. And you see people pick up so little sometimes because there's not really a lot of substance. This Shabbos, right, from Friday morning until now, there was so much information. I myself am going home with so much information. And if I'd have more time now, I'd be sitting upstairs with a pen and paper writing down so many pieces of advice, so many pieces of brilliant guidance that people are going home with. And while I don't have any issue competing with anyone who there are people that are a lot better and smarter and more capable than I am, what I am competing over here with heads that are filled to capacity. I see people here that have been listening to so much in the last 24 hours that I wonder if there's room for more. So I have one of two choices. I could either say something that will fit so aligned with everything you heard that it will just pack itself neatly into the cracks and you won't even notice that I added anything, because it's basically going along with whatever you heard. Or I could say something so dramatically different and contradicting everything everyone said that everyone's just going to be mixed up. But at least they'll hear what I said. Try it. Or what I could try to do a third thing. That's what I'm going to try to do. See, the way I see it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, this is how I'm going home from this Shabbos. A lot of information about what we should be doing with children, there's so much that we should be doing. And just as, for an example, what our keynote speaker said yesterday, right? We're looking to make children feel safe, secure, seen, soothed. Big menu. It's tall order. We're trying to give them all kind of healthy attachment, regardless of however much we have, right? Even a taller order. We're trying to give to each and every one of them. A huge order. And by the time you start taking it apart and realize that making a child feel safe means safe physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, sexually, you're going home with a truckload of information that will probably take you a very long time to implement. And I hope it does. Because if it goes too quickly, then you're probably missing half of it on the way. And by the time somebody asks you what they say about a Shabbos, I think it was something about an S. Maybe Shabbaton. No, Schlissel. It was something about the Schlissel. And you know, you may be missing, because it's really a lot. I'll tell you, it's really a lot. And it's good to remember that it's a lot. And being a lot just goes to show what the responsibility is and what we're trying to attain and what the ultimate circumstance is. What do we do till then? Where do we start? If my mission going home is to get my wife on board, and she wasn't here this Shabbos, even though I spoke to her and I told her a lot already about what I heard this Shabbos, but if I try getting her on board, by the time we both feel that we attained that much skill and clarity to be able to implement everything that we were taught, right? I'm not sure what season it's going to be anymore, and where my kids will be holding by then, right? You got to go on in life. So I think that what I'm going to try to offer now is more of a short-term thing. Where do we start? I want to make every one of my children feel safe, secure, seen, soothed, every one of them. I want to attach to all them healthy. I want to make sure they're all happy. I want to make sure they're all doing what they should be doing. I want to make sure they all feel loved and doing it the right way and for the right reason. There's so much I'm trying to do. Where do I start? It's important to know where to start. As I say, if you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, I know English. If you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, then people aren't going to understand you. Sometimes what happens is, I'll tell you, kind of harder with a Steve mit Kinder. You know, there's a lot of children. So we were told to spend time with the kids. Okay, Mati, here it goes. I love her. Take a book and read with her. And while the other ones are complaining, right? They said I have to spend time with my children. Well, she's the easiest one to spend time with. Tomorrow night, I'll take the second one, who's the second easiest, and the third, right? If I don't prioritize, if I don't know who comes first, Who comes first when it comes to a bunch of kids? Kanai Nahara. Now, like we heard, there's not the kids. It's not one entity, but there's a bunch of them. And we have to know where we start. And what happens in a day, where we're talking about meltdowns, right? What happens in a day when I am stressed and my time is limited, and I only have time to learn with one of my sons? Who do I choose? Who's most important? Right? So we know that, unfortunately, right, when you're in a situation where one of the children is really struggling, so we know that, yeah, technically he takes up a lot more time than other ones. That's just how it goes, because he's the one in crisis, he's the one in need. And everyone understands that. There's something about priority. But let's not talk about now about children that are struggling. We addressed it Friday, you heard about it the whole Shabbos. We're talking about a bunch of children. So like I said before, your children aren't coming with labels, I need the most attention, I'm the most miserable, I'm the one that's struggling inside. They don't come with that. Right? They say a story about a Gabba in a Shil. He was trying to give people the aliyahs that they want. You know, it's always, whoever's a Gabba over here knows that you want to make sure you give the right person what he needs and you don't want to mess up. There's one guy, he said he doesn't have a problem with it. When he called him to aliyah the first time, regardless of where they were holding by the lane, he said, what's your name? Yamud? Reb Aaron ben Abdav Shishi. Okay, so whenever you called him up, it was Aaron of Shishi, he got his Shishi every week. You know, some kids will tell you, I need a lot of attention, I need Shishi, but some kids won't tell it to you. That's why it's so important to be able to figure out intuitively, parents on their own, where do I have to invest most? Not because you're taking away chazal from someone else, but who needs it most, who needs it quickest, who needs it the most important, who can't do without it right now. So that's something that I want to talk about, and especially when it comes to children. When it comes to your spouse, when it comes to adults, I'd mentioned I was giving a workshop on career and business relationship. You're talking about adults. You tell someone, you know, if you need attention, if you need independence, if you need recognition at your work, say it to your boss. He may not know it about you. You can tell that to an adult. You can't tell it to a kid. Not only doesn't he know how to articulate what he needs, he doesn't even know what he needs. It's so natural and subconscious to him that he has no idea what he needs. How can he go tell you what he needs? And that's where you have to be the mind reader and figure it out. So it's not so easy, but let's try to make it a little easier. So using the same model that I used Friday, and even though then I was talking about broken glass, but let's start again for those that weren't there and for those that want to review. Some people here already heard it from me a few times. It's okay. I heard it from myself even more times. There are days that I could be saying the same thing 7 times to new people that are coming to me, and I try to put in whatever I can so that it comes out clear. We know that people are different one from another. We know that people think differently and do differently. And when you have a few kids, if you're looking into it and trying to understand it, right? Sometimes the women may be a little better at that when it comes to little children. Understand the difference. I remember my shver when he used to bring him a baby, say, bring him back when they talk. Bring him back and sometimes the men don't realize with little kids which one cries longer, which one needs more bottle, which one needs to be held more. You don't even realize, until they're upshan, you don't even notice. But the women notice right when the baby's born. There's big differences. There's the baby that's crying more. There's the baby that needs to be held more. The baby that could go to sleep on its own. The baby that wakes up every hour or two or every minute or two. There's something about it. There's differences in children, and it's inherent. It's how they're born. Anything that will affect a child, anything that will affect a person all his life, will always be on top of who he is. Based on who he is, that's how it will affect him, right? We were talking about understanding the difference between siblings, understanding the difference between why you see a child that's struggling. So of course there's explanations as to what he's lacking. What is he lacking? He's lacking attachment. That's true, he is. Why him? Why is it that the father was able to give one child what he wasn't able to give another child? It still needs explanation. And this is where it becomes so clear when you start understanding a little more about a child. And everything I'm talking about children is relevant about adults. If we still get there to talk a little about adults, we'll do that too. And if not, you'll just have to connect the dots on your own, right? Adults are children who didn't die as children. They turned into adults. It's the same thing, literally. So the model that I use, and I know there's a lot of different ways of assessing personalities, but the common denominator and the clarity that I want to lead to is something that you'll only see if you're using this model that I'm going to offer. It's a 4-type model. It's as old as the hills. Greek philosophy speaks about the different phlegm and gall and different koiches that are in a person, and this is from the Kadmoinim lahavdil. This is not coming from the Greek philosophy. This is in the Kadmoinim, in Nefesh Udam. There's a Mura Shchoire, Mura Levaina, Mura Yeroike. Everybody has different components in them that are influencing their Nefesh. Now again, we spoke about what's a nefesh. What's a nefesh? We know that a neshama is neshama kadosha, that can be blemished, can be nivgam. We heard about that before. Something from Tachas Kisah Kovet, something very special that we don't know what it is. There's a gif, there's a physical part of every person, that's the same by everyone. Basically the same by everyone. You do your statistics, you do the math, you go to a doctor, he looks it up, and you're all the same. There's a nefesh in a person. That's what's making a person tick. It's his mindset, it's his emotional and psychological part of him. It's what's making one person think and perceive and behave and react differently than someone else. What's influencing somebody to do something one way as opposed to another way? So these four components in a person, this is what the Surim called Dal Yisoidis. Everything in the world is made up, is combined from Dal Yisoidis, Aish, Mayim, Riyach, Ofar. Right? There's the air, the water, the fire, and the earth. This is everything. Everything we see, even in the material world, is made up of these four components. These are four elements that are basis of everything, and it's all about the combination, how much of one and how much of the other is mixing it all together. It's the same four ingredients that can make so many different combinations and will look so different, the outcome. But it's all really the same thing. We saw the tray of challahs over there, right? It was funny to see how everyone was able to find theirs. Yeah, every challah looks different. It's made out of the same stuff, but everything looks different. Depends how much you put in and what you do with it. So to put it short, everybody has in them these four components. What are they? Let's just spell it out as components. Not yet as anything dominant, not yet as anything more relevant by one person than the other, just as components. This is what I call the yellow component. The yesod van riyach, ear. Right? What is that ear in a person? What does it do to a person? Everybody has in them that part of ear in them, that balloon, that smiley face. That's what I call the yellow, the smiley face, the sunshine. That's the happy and friendly part of a person. Let's zoom into that, happy and friendly. That's it. Friendly is the social part, where we connect easily with other people, right? Interact well and communicate well and enjoy it. And then there's the happy part. You see people that are just happy. Everyone is happy. Everyone likes being happy. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone's enjoying a joke. Everyone's enjoying something funny. Why? Because we all have that in ourselves. We all have something in us that is attracted to something happy and enjoyable. Okay? Some of us have more of that. Some of us have less of that. But there's something about it that's eerie and easy and geschmack. We all have a second component. That's what I call the blue component, which is the mayim, the water part of us. That's the easygoing and flexible and kind-hearted part of a person. Everyone here looks very kind, and everybody here could do a favor for someone. Everybody here could go along with what someone else is asking to some degree. Everybody here could tolerate to some degree. That easygoingness is coming from a component in a person that's giving him that koiches, that tchinas hanefesh, that something that's allowing him to go along, to be easy about something. I'll review it again in a minute. Let me just go on. There's the red part of a person. The red part of a person, that is the aish, fire, right? You have to be brilliant for that. The aish in a person, that's the red. That's energetic. That's giving him the heat. That's giving him the koyach and the energy to make things happen, to move forward, to be aggressive, to want to accomplish and lead. There's something moving forward about a person, and that's coming from a strong energy. And we know, every one of us, when we need to at least, some even when we don't need to, could lead, could step up to the plate, could make things happen, could accomplish. What's that coming from? It's a part of a person that's moving forward and making things happen. Okay, and that's the fire in the person that wants to accomplish and achieve and go on and move on. There's a fourth component in a person. That's the earth, the ofar, which is what I call ultraviolet, which is a color, ultraviolet. Okay, to abbreviate, I call it the UV. I'll talk more about the color today, which I didn't get to. If I don't, you remind me. The UV part of a person, right, that is the sensitivity and the emotional part of a person. There's a certain sensitivity in every person. Everybody reacts in a sensitive way at some time, in some way. Everybody can be offended, everybody can be hurt, everybody could feel that something's too difficult to tolerate, everybody could feel disturbed by something. There's a certain part of us that doesn't like when things aren't emotionally comfortable. Let's start with emotionally. Emotionally comfortable, there's a part of us that wants that things should be easy and comfortable and the way we want, which is normal. The fact that somebody's getting disturbed or hurt or offended or, there's another word I'm looking for, or just simply uncomfortable about something is coming from a certain part of him that's sensitive to that uncomfortable feeling, and it's not tolerating it. So while let's just move back a little, while his yellow component may not even notice that which is uncomfortable because happy-go-lucky, who cares? But his other component, right, is another part of him that is reacting to that. Okay, and that's what we're made up of. So let's just do it again one more time. And like I said, this is the Shtayt in the Kadmoinim, the Shtayt in Zohar Kodesh, and Medrash, this Nishman Chadishim. It's just the way you spell it out that gives the clarity. But you can find this. And Nefesh Udam is put together by these components. Again, there's the Riyach, Mayim, Aish, and Ofer. There's the yellow, happy-go-lucky, enjoyable, friendly, and social component. And let me add, that's the part of a person living in the present. Living in the present. What makes a person so easy? What makes a person so happy and enjoyable? What is it that, you could just sit down and enjoy a conversation and both people are laughing without looking at the clock? What is it? Does it mean that they both paid up the mortgage this month? Does it mean they both put away enough money to marry off the kids? Does it mean that they both have the picture-perfect family the way you would assume, seeing two people enjoying themselves? Or could it be that they're living in the present? When somebody is living in the present and enjoying himself, right, and not thinking about what the landlord just texted him a few minutes ago, and not thinking about a deadline or something that he's supposed to be rushing to, so of course he's enjoying life. Living in the present, right, sometimes we need more of that, but living in the present is what makes a person enjoy himself and connect easily. It's not so easy for me to connect with you if you may have once hurt me, or if I'm not sure what you're going to say in a few minutes, or if I have other things on my mind. If I'm living in the present, I'm sitting near you, so what could be better? Let's strike up a conversation. Okay? So when somebody has a lot of that yellow component, that's what's giving him that style of doing things. That's what's bringing him to be living in the present and enjoy himself. And smiley, and talking, and conversing. And this Shabbos, I've sat near a few such people who, without even knowing who I am, or without even asking my name, started saying things and talking and communicating, and very enjoyable. Okay? So that's what's coming from a person's yellow component, which is the one more time, friendly, happy, and living in the present. Let's zoom it up in that. Now, really, it's much more to it. And I'll elaborate more soon, but I like zooming in first, because what happens is when people try to elaborate too much, they put in too many different characteristics in it that they assume are really part of the actual nature. When you zoom in, you get the best picture of what it really is. Okay? You have the blue component again, which is the easy, soft, gentle, tolerant, flexible part of a person, we said, right? That's making things go slow-paced and easy, right? Something about not rushing and not getting places, something calm, very calm and gentle part of a person. The calm and gentle part of a person is actually somewhat tied to the past. There's a reason why when someone does something slow-paced, it's usually because he's thinking it through, and he's either learning from experience or he's afraid what the next step will be. He's attracted to the past. He's not sitting in the past. He's not harping on the past, but he's attracted to the past. His mindset, and he's learning from the past. There's the third part of a person, we said, which is the red, the energetic, go-getting part of a person, right? That's the strong part of a person, let's call it. Confident part of a person that wants to make things happen, accomplish. It's not enough what's now. Let's use the energy and move and push forward. And this is the part of a person that's attracted towards the future, right? So that part of a person that wants to make things happen is because he has a picture of what the future should be and where he wants to get, and a dream, and he's pushing toward that. There's the UV component, which we said is the fourth component. It's called the fragile, sensitive part of a person, the emotional part of a person, and that's what's causing a lot of sensitivity. So anything the person is reacting to in a sensitive way, an emotional way, right, that's coming from a UV component, which is causing him to get emotional about something that other parts of him maybe would have let pass. Other parts of him wouldn't care, right? But there's something about him that's getting stuck there, and that's his feelings. It's amazing what feelings are. Sometimes we don't even realize. You ask a person, how are you? Angry. You're angry? How are you? To be able to differentiate, right? We heard a little about that, also actually about suffering and depression. To be able to understand what emotions really are is a discussion of its own. And so much of healing only starts when you realize the difference between what you're experiencing and what you're feeling. But what happens is when somebody's feeling something very strong, it becomes part of him. He assumes it's part of him. He gets taken over by it. Emotions are very intense. Emotions are very strong. If everything in this world would be logical, right? If everything would be on a logical level, if we would all be understanding things and comprehending things simply with logic, then it would be fairly simple to get along, right? Think about it. I would explain to you how I see it. You'd explain to me how you see it, and whichever makes more sense, we'd go along with. So aside from the fact that it's true that we think differently and we understand things differently to some degree, but there's the emotions that are kicking in, the emotions that are making things so different. And it's the emotions that are influencing how we feel, how we think, and how we perceive, and that's really what's such a big factor in what a person's thinking. Oh, I was waiting for the question. I was hoping nobody would ask. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay? Well, yeah, I guess you don't have to be a engineer to realize that if we spoke about the present, the past, and the future, then you get stuck. Okay, the ladies are being polite. Okay. So let's just give a picture. When we're talking about children, let's talk about children. And like I said, we're not talking about struggling children. We're not talking about struggling children. We're talking about children, Kita Aleph. Let's talk about Kita Aleph Kinder. Okay? Kita Aleph Kinder, young children, somewhat the same, right? And I have malamdim that come to my classes and they learn about nursery kids. And you could see on little children what they're all about. I could see I'm a lot younger children than that, simply because I'm so into this. And when I have a baby, it doesn't take me more than a few weeks on a baby. There's one baby that's more sensitive, one baby that's more happy, one baby that's more calm, one baby that's more energetic. You see that. And what it boils down to is what the Sfurim call a mezig. We'll talk a little more about the differences in mezig, but mezig means a combination. Everything is made up of a combination. You see a cookie, it's a mezig. There's sugar in there, there's flour in there, there's eggs in there. It's all a combination. What makes one cookie hotter than the other is not because it's made out of different stuff. It's how much of each thing is in there. So what's dominating? Is the flour the most, and that's why it's heavier, or there's less flour and more sugar, or whatever it is, or just potato starch? Yeah. So whatever's in there, that's what your subtotal is going to be. So in Nefesh Udam, the way the Surim talk about it, everybody has a dominant nature. Everybody is being influenced by their dominant nature most. Everybody has in them one component of these four that is dominant by them. In some people, it's boilet. It's so noticeable. It screams itself out, and you look around and say, "Whoa, look at that yellow guy." It's just one big smile, one big conversation. And sometimes you see a guy and you say, "I don't know. It's interesting. I don't get him yet," which is fine. The point is not to get everyone, but the point is to understand it when it's relevant. Everybody has in them a dominant nature. Everybody has in them one component of theirs that's dominant. Now, when I say dominant, I'm not talking about the 40% as opposed to 10. Dominant is dominant. A dominant nature is a style of a person. He's mostly following his dominant nature. Now, it is for sure being influenced by a secondary and third. There's a difference between this yellow kid and that yellow kid, because this one's a yellow-blue, so a little calmer, as friendly and social as he is, but you see that gentle part of him, and this one's the yellow-red, much more go-getting and laughing and always looking to have fun and making things happen in a fun way, because that's what he's running after. So you see the differences. But let's just discuss what it looks like in children, young children even. And when I say Kita Aleph, I'm talking about, let's say, 5, 6-year-olds, when they start expressing themselves better, and you don't have to be such a detective to figure it out, right? You have a yellow child, for example. He's the one that's always smiling, comes home from school or from Chayde, and right away sharing what he went through, and what his Rebbe said, and what his teacher, and the good joke that someone made, and the new friend that he made. And this is every day, another friend, and someone else invited into his house, and he was playing and sharing. There's something just happy and bubbly about a child. Easy, living in the present, happy-go-lucky. Right? And when something breaks and the child does cry, don't worry, yellow children cry, and then they stop crying. They get out of it. They're living in the present. They're not going to get stuck on something that happened yesterday. They won't come looking for the toy they lost yesterday. They forgot about it. I'll never forget when I was trying to keep my yellow daughter busy. And I figured, yellow all over the place, running and coming with friends and with things. And I'll sit her down. This was before I understood a thing or two. And I went and bought for $50 one of these noise stickers with these pitty little pieces. And I figured this is like 1,000 pieces. I'm gonna keep her here for good. Maybe she'll even forget to come eat, She'll be sitting on the floor with this little thing, you have to push in the pieces exact. Wonderful idea, right? It's worth $50. Yeah? Well, it wasn't, because she sat down with it, and she was so thankful. "Oh, Tati, beautiful, I love it, thank you so much." And she sat down, and a few minutes later, I see her running around. I said, "Hey, what happened to your thing?" Yeah, I'm gonna get back to it. And that's when you start realizing that the yellow child is not gonna sit there with these nitty-gritty pieces. That kid wants to play and fun and whatever. But what do you do with the pieces? Yeah, I'm going to clean them in a second. And that was it. So on the one hand, you can get nervous at such a kid. Come on, what's your responsibility? Well, a yellow kid may be a little less responsible than other kids. Maybe a little more telling on their shirt what they ate that day. Maybe a little sloppier or a lot sloppier. Everything depending on what the child's all about. But this is what the yellow's about. That's like, who cares? But you're dirty. That's fine. But I don't have time to wash out your uniform. You don't have to. But you're not going to be embarrassed to go to school? No, it's fine. Something about living in the present, enjoying life, that makes things very easy. There are people that make things very easy. There are people that you could say, maybe get up and say a few words. Oh, sure. What are you going to say? I don't know. What is that? That's called living in the present and not caring much about your image and what someone's going to say about you and the joke you made, if it was good or not. Hey, you said something. And the next guy sitting next to him saying, and now it's your turn. Oh, no, I don't do that. Why not? He did. It's not a question why he did. He did because that's what he is, and you can't because you can't. So the yellow child, right, talking about the 6-year-old, happy-go-lucky, smiley face, cute, lovable, friendly, beautiful. Well, unless you can handle that nature. That's a discussion of its own. Enough parents can handle that. But there's something cute about it. Child gets even older, more friends. Child gets older, wants to play more, wants to go to different friends, one-eyed by this one, one-eyed by that one, and dealing with life in a very yellow way. And you'll see people that are unfortunately struggling and suffering, right? We heard a lot of Shabbos about people suffering, a lot of suffering going on. Unfortunately, we shouldn't know from it. We should all get out of it. And there are people that deal with suffering in a yellow way. And when you go over and say, what's Machman? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Everything okay with it? Oh, no, not still. There's a problem going on. The person's not stuck in it because as the airy person is living in the present and up in the air and not grounded in anything specific, and that's what's making things easy. And just as a off the record, right? We said everything here is off the record. From experience, I know that from clients who come to me, even though it would be nice to sit with yellows and chapash move sometimes, yellows come the least for help. Interestingly, because even if a yellow is suffering at home, by the time they leave the house and by the time they get to the kavish table to free, he's fine. And all of a sudden, 2 months later, he's calling me, have a problem. I said, oh, what happened with the old problem? No, that never got taken care of, but now it's a crisis. I said, okay, so come over. I don't really have so much time, but come over. You'll be at 1 o'clock, because Mom only have 15 minutes for you. Yeah, okay, 2 o'clock, you're not going to do it. Oh, it's not 1 o'clock anymore. Okay, just hear me out a little bit. I'll be back tomorrow to finish off. And he's not there anymore. When someone's living in the present, it's a style, it's a certain way of dealing with things. That's what I call the rubber person. Like the rubber ball, bouncing around in different places, adapting easily on the one hand, maybe doing things a little irresponsibly. On the other hand, it's a nature of a person, right? If I elaborate about each one this long, we'll probably not get to what I want to talk about. And I could talk about it a lot longer. And just as one example, somebody called me last week about a bocher. He comes late in the shir, and as many times as we told him to come on time, he said he'll come on time, and lamasi. Then he comes in, and all of a sudden he's asking questions in the shir, and he missed the first half, and the Maggid Shir is getting nervous, and he said, okay, so I won't ask. Like on the one hand, he's so easy about things, but on the other hand, he's like so unreliable and not timely and things like that. Maybe we should give him medication, maybe we know something. Sometimes you just hear about a little more extreme yellow, but this is what the yellow boy is about. Now, I'm not saying that 25% of the kids in the class are behaving this way. Right? There's a lot going on in a person. There's a lot that a person's been through that's influencing him in a certain way, but this is what I call the yellow nature. Let's move on. You have a dominant blue kid, and that's the soft, easygoing child. That's the one who the Rebbe will really have an issue with. The teacher will really have to call her name, really have to make a phone call home about. And every teacher knows that. In the quarter of the class, approximately, everything's approximate, not in families, but in classrooms. Families, there are natures and personalities running in families to a certain degree, but in the classroom, approximately 25% of the kids that are plain easy kids. The teacher will say, okay, today we're changing places, changing seats, and there are those that are going to complain. There are those that will easiest, the quickest to say, okay, no problem. And then the teacher may even see the kid can't even see the board, but he's not saying anything because he's going along. He's just simply easy. He's easy to please. He's flexible. He's bendable. He's going along with what's being asked of him. He's asked to run an errand. He does it. He doesn't complain. No, things aren't too difficult. Now, again, everyone could complain. Nobody's made out of just one thing. Every child is a child, everyone that remains immature, and everyone has that. But there are those that are easier. We know what that means. They need less attention. They don't need a lead. They'll follow. They don't want to lead. They don't need a spotlight. They want to please. Kind-hearted, easy to share a snack, and things like that. Sometimes actually feeling very compassionate and having a feeling for someone else, etc. And it's not only with kids, we said. This is with adults as well. You see the one that's you see someone and he gives him away his chair, and he goes and gets another chair. Just a simple act of kindness and sensitivity, having in mind that somebody else should be happy. And in a very gentle way, in a very pleasant and easygoing way. Just to throw in just another few points that are coming to mind, I'm not reading off a paper. The blue will very often find himself guilty of certain problems going on around him. He'll accept on himself blame and think that he's maybe the problem instead of pointing at someone else who's actually maybe more to blame, because that's who he is, low-key, just take it easy, maybe I'm not the greatest or the best, and maybe dealing with a little less confidence, etc. And with small children. The red child, that's the macher, the one that's getting things going in a healthy way, most often in a healthy way. The one that's arranging the group to go around collecting Purim, the one that's arranging a party, the one that's having in mind things should happen, the one that's leading and confident and answering a question when he's asked and sticking up for himself in a healthy way. A lot of confidence and strength And moving forward, we spoke about, right? We spoke about moving forward. While the blue, for example, will be doing the same thing day after day and being okay with it. The rest doesn't want to make things happen, right? You see a guy in business. There are different styles that people do business. You see people doing business in the way that they're doing the same job for years, working for someone and being okay with it. And then the guy who, every time you meet him, so what are you doing now? Oh, so I added another few things to my business. He's pushing things forward. It's a style. It's an aggressive way of doing things. So we said the yellow was the rubber, right? The blue, we left that was the plastic. Plastic, soft, easy, bendable, light to some degree. And the red, we said was the wood. This is the strong one, the one that's supportive, and usually supportive to others, and being able to accept on himself, handle stress, and deal with a lot that's going on at once, right? Someone that can handle a lot and deal with it well in most cases. And there's, even with children, like I said, crawling fast, walking fast, talking fast. People have so many different styles of how they do things, but while the blue will generally be talking a little slower and more thought through as he's talking, putting more thought into it, the red will be jumping ahead and already saying the next thing because he's moving forward in a quicker pace. In today's cookie cutter education system, right? Everyone's supposed to be the same, right? It's not mamash like Saddam, but sometimes it's similar. And just only because I mentioned the word Saddam, I once said this somewhere. The problem in Saddam wasn't that everyone had the same bed, which that's what we're taught in Chayda, right? Everyone had the same bed. That wasn't the problem over here in the hotel. Also, I hope everyone had the same bed as I did, because otherwise it wasn't fair. Everyone had the same bed. Imagine coming to the reception table and they look at you. Oh, let me see. 1 second. Take out a measuring stick. You need room number. Oh, 1 second. But that's your wife. It's not going to work. You can't have a separate bed, a different size bed for everyone. There's no education system that could cater to every kid separately. The question is, what do you do when you get to your room upstairs and you see that you're a little longer than the bed? So if your wife says, okay, you lay down, I'm going to fix it, that's the problem. The bed's allowed to be the same size. You have to know how to accommodate and let someone fit into it gently without giving them a push. But in today's cookie cutter system, kids are supposed to learn the same pace, understand the same fast, understand the same deep, and it's not possible. It's literally not possible. So what happens? They start with statistics. I'm getting a little off topic here, but they start with statistics which tell you, 75% of the kids are doing it this way. Say, yeah, that's the point. If it's only 75%, maybe it says something. Maybe 25% of the kids are not either the word capable or even supposed to be doing what you're expecting from the other 75. Maybe they're going to have to struggle to get to what you want from the other kids. And you have to be understanding to that. I'll never forget when my blue child, I have more than one of each, Baruch Hashem, so I have a lot of hands-on experience at home. So my blue child came in with a zettel that he's mitching with the Ivra. He needs to review the Ivra more, right? The Kriya. So I called him Lama. I said, it's interesting. You sure you wrote to the right kid? I hear him say Tillim, and he's mamash beautiful. He's saying it's fine. I said, yeah, but you don't get it. Most kids at this time of the year are already saying 50 words a minute, and he's only saying 35. He's only saying 35, so it's a problem. I should have realized that on my own, right? I said, it's interesting. Just recently I was by Tosha Rebbe, and he only says 20 words a minute. It's like so ridiculous. It's not possible. So I was just mentioning, because I said the blue is usually talking a little slower than the red. That's what it is. It's fine. I said, if you don't mind, I'm okay with this pace. And Baruch Hashem, today he got a little quicker. He may not be as quick as I am, but he's doing fine, Baruch Hashem.
Does that mean kids could change?
Everyone could change. You don't change your...
Can they change their nature?
You don't change your nature. Nobody changes their nature, no. As much as we want to, as much as Heidegger reminded Shabt Udin Leniver El Shabras HaTeva, right? I have a big chibur, I wrote about that, but just as a diak, he doesn't say Hudim Leniver Elu L'shanas HaTeva or L'hapach HaTeva. Shviras HaTeva means that a person has his kailam that the Eibishter gives him, his way of doing things, his kashoyness and his koiches, and he has to work with that all his life and go against what's natural for him and overcome different obstacles that are in his way that may not necessarily be someone else's challenge.
A red can never become a blue?
A red will never become a blue.
But he can teach himself to...
Is that discouraging?
No, but does that mean that he can teach himself to act like a blue?
If he wants to, in a play. Why would you want to act like someone you're not?
He doesn't want to be one.
If you don't want to be who you are, that we'll talk about. You come over soon. Yeah, that's a separate issue. It's not what we're discussing here. I'll mention it, but just to answer the question first. There's no reason for anyone to ever want to be someone else. And as a matter of fact, as parents, there's no reason we should ever want any one of our children to be someone else, ever. No matter what situation a child's in. He's in his unique situation, with his unique struggles, with his unique kailam that the Eibishter gave him. And his point in life is to use his kaidim and overcome his issues the best way he could. And for him to be like someone else, we wouldn't need to, right? So it's important to remember. I'll talk about it in a minute more.
So behavior can't be modified?
Behavior can be modified a lot.
Right.
Behavior can be modified, but a natural, instinctive way of doing things, what's natural for a person, the way he's processing something, the fact that he may not appreciate something or maybe not attracted to something, may be like that all his life, which is fine. He may be overcoming things doing things that even if it's not natural for him. If a father, just as an example, I don't mind if you ask questions, but everything will just take a little longer. If a parent, for example, right? Let's say he's a yellow. Okay, I'm just getting thrown off topic for a minute. Let's say a father, dominant yellow. What would he want to do if it was up to him? He would probably sleep a little later in the day even, right? He's not so motivated to get things moving. When he does get up, he'll go to shul, he'll drink his coffee, he'll stay late after davening with the kiddush and some friends, and then find his way home, and then maybe pick up, if he notices a newspaper on the way in. I don't want to make it sound too funny, but I mean to say, get caught in the different... But as a parent, he has responsibilities. Now, if he was this blue parent, kind-hearted and easygoing and dealing with things very thought through, then maybe it would be a lot easier for him sometimes to deal with different situations in life or with children and more responsibly, let's call it, right? Does that absolve the other parents from doing the same thing? No. But it may never be natural or easy for him. So it's important to remember what life is about. Life is about using the kaidim that Abishta gave you, using it the right way, which means that if you have this natural capability of connecting with people and making them happy, do so. And make sure that everything else in life is also being taken care of in a healthy way. And we can only expect of ourselves also only a certain amount. It's important to remember, as much as we talk about how much to expect of children and what situations they're in, there's only a certain amount you could expect of yourself. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't push yourself further. You have to have healthy expectations of yourself. If not, you're going to get stuck somewhere in the middle and just break down. Very important. Let's move on, yeah? So we spoke about the yellow, happy-go-lucky child, the blue, easygoing, soft, gentle child, the red, energetic, go-getting child, a little stubborn but confident, strong kid, and the UV child. So the UV child is the sensitive one, right? Dominant UV means that a sensitive and emotional component is the strongest in him, more than anything else. What that means is that he's reacting to so many different things on an emotional level. So when somebody takes away his thing, instead of looking to see who it is or asking, why did you take that from me, right? Instead of doing that, he'll give I get to my frask. What happened? He's reacting emotionally. It didn't make sense what he just did. Maybe the person had a reason to do it. Maybe it was actually his. Maybe we made up that after 15 minutes he could take it. But when the emotions are working, that's just one example, obviously, he loses himself to emotion. Now, when we talk about a child that's sensitive and emotional, it's important to remember, especially when talking about this child, that there's different ways that sensitivity plays itself out. Many different ways. Very often, when I talk to people about children, because they're dealing with one kind of sensitive child, that's what's coming to mind. That child. So to one person, I'm talking now about a sensitive kid who's very emotional and reacting emotionally to things. What's coming in his mind is that kid, very shy, very intimidated, and if somebody says something, he gets all anxious, and the social anxiety is just getting worse with the years, maybe a little OCD coming along, right? Because that's what this parent is seeing in their UV child. Another parent is thinking about the other example I gave, the child that, you say one wrong thing to him, and he gets all angry, and he starts throwing things and breaking things. Those are two different children. But they're both really reacting to the same component. It's amazing. And the same is really with the yellow and the blue. I'm talking about it here because here it's so distinctly different. You'll see one child who's sensitive, and the sensitivity is bringing him to close down, right? I'll explain it more why. And you have another child who the sensitivity is causing him to explode. But it's both coming from the same thing. Now, children that are more sensitive and more emotional and reacting emotionally to things around them. So let's just put it a little more into perspective. We said that everybody has their dominant personality and a secondary and a third and a fourth, right? And that's what's influencing the people, their puzzles differently. So even though the dominant nature of two children could be the same, it's the secondary amongst other things that are influencing children to do things differently. Let me stop here before I go on and start comparing different children one to another. Just to give some clarity, and bear with me, and I hope that whoever wants will be able to hear this again. For clarity's sake, it doesn't go in a minute. But let's just try to break it down to make sure everyone's with me. There's different common denominators, right? There's different things that you can compare. Two children, for example, the yellow and the blue, dominant yellow and blue children, that they'll compare in certain things, share characteristics almost. When you look at the characteristics of the yellow and the blue, you'll notice certain similarities on some level that are different than the red and the UV. In other words, you'll be able to distinguish between these two and these two. And you can do this with all the different colors, however way you're going to try to divide it. So let's do it quickly. And I'm just trying to give a certain amount of clarity that will lead up to where I'm trying to get. The yellow and the blue child, for example, right, versus the red and the UV. The yellow is the happy-go-lucky, fun-loving one. The blue is the gentle one. They're both, let's call it easy. Don't worry, I'm not going to call the other ones difficult. But they're both easy. Easy, right? If the yellow child doesn't have what he wants that day when he needs it, he'll move on. If the blue child doesn't have what he wants the day when he needs it, he'll also move on. They may be doing it for different reasons, but they have a certain similarity. There's something about them that's similar. As opposed to the red and the UV child, for example, right? The red is more tough and strong and confident, knows what he wants, and if he doesn't have what he wants, he may say, well, why not? Because we don't. No, you didn't forget. I know you. Why didn't you get it for me? He's not even trying to be difficult, but he's sticking up for himself with confidence. The UV child, due to his emotionalism and his sensitive reaction, will get offended. What do you mean you didn't buy it for me? But you said you would. You're not being honest. You don't like me. He's taking it personal and emotional. Okay? So there you see just one example. I could elaborate on this. You see how the yellow and the blue are reacting to something a certain way, and the red and UV another way. Let's do it a little differently. The yellow with the happy-go-lucky one with the red, right? The energetic go-getter, the one that's arranging things, making things happen. What do they have in common that the blue and the UV don't have in common? Well, both the yellow, who's the friendly and outgoing one, and the red, who's the achiever and the accomplisher, are both connecting with people around them. They're both living with others, either to socialize or to motivate, but they're both connecting and both moving outward, extroverted, right? That's what it's called in Yiddish. Okay, as opposed to the blue and the UV that are both more introverted, both more quieter, both more in themselves. Why? The blue because he's low profile and maybe a little more shy, right, less confident, and the UV because of his emotions that are blocking him maybe from going out and connecting. Okay? Also, just an example. Let's do one more time. The blue and the red. I hope I'm not going too quickly. The blue and the red, you heard it 3 times already. He's telling me it's okay, I go faster. Okay, the blue and the red versus the yellow and the UV. Okay, the blue is the gentle child, right, the easy child, and the red is the go-getter, as opposed to the happy-go-lucky one and the emotional one. Okay, it's a little interesting over here, but there's something, I hope you're gonna understand this. There's something about the blue and the red that's conventional, going along, mainstream. The blue is not the one that's doing things different from the crowd because of his willingness to please, to go along, right? Certain easiness that he has. The red, even though he's making things happen, and he's sometimes even standing out with his accomplishments and moving and shaking and making things happen, but he's doing it most often in a conventional way. He's not doing things out of the box. He's making the things that are happening happen. He's going along with the flow and moving it forward. As opposed to the yellow, happy-go-lucky, living in the present, he's doing things on his own. He could be walking in somewhere and all of a sudden stop, like everyone's just moving, and he's like looking at something because he got stuck on something. He could be standing out sometimes, right? He could be laughing very loud in class because something's funny now and he forgot himself where he is. Well, right? So he could be doing things differently, let's call it. He could be wearing his shtrammel the way it fell onto his head. And that's fine for him, right? Why fix it, right? It's fine for him. And a UV child, due to his emotions, could be doing things differently because he's being pulled emotionally in a way that's causing him to do things sometimes different than others want him to do. I want to do things my way. Okay. Just a few examples. Those are just a few examples. So let me just give one quick scenario that can happen in any classroom, and in any home for that matter, but in the classroom it's just more, it's more interesting because the kids are the same age, same Rebbe, same setting, right? So you have kids, for example, sitting in a classroom, and a Rebbe will notice that a kid is not following along in the Chumash. Just one example. And he says, David, how come your finger's not on the place? Well, this yellow boy, David, he woke up from his dreams, and he put his finger on the place. He thought it's cute. Right? He looks around, seeing everyone, if anyone's laughing. He wasn't offended, he wasn't insulted. He put his finger on the place. 10 seconds later, he's daydreaming again, living in the present. He didn't take it seriously. His rubber just bounced off. He wasn't affected. Okay, then the next day, same thing. Hey, Baruch, how come your finger's not on the place? Same Rebbe, same tone, nothing changed. Nothing changed. It's not more intense, it's not a different environment. You can't blame it. You can't blame the different reaction on anything other than the fact that Baruch is blue. And Baruch, for whatever reason, his finger wasn't in place. Actually, a different kid was disturbing him, but he won't say that. He won't say, hey, Rebbe, it was him. No, okay, I should have had my finger in the place. The Rebbe's right. He puts his finger in the place, and he follows along the whole day, and it doesn't happen again. So fast, at least. Okay? The next day, third kid, Hillel, how come your finger's not in the place? Okay, Hillel straightens up, no sweat, puts his finger in the place. 15 minutes, no issue. Confident, red boy. It doesn't bother him so much. He doesn't care. Yeah, no. And then a few minutes later, he's stuck arranging his list for what he's going to do later, and he's busy with his own thing, doing a few things at once. And then there's the fourth boy, right? And the Rebbe called out, Shaga, how come your finger's not in the place? Shaga gets tense, he starts biting his lips, and inside he's thinking, the Rebbe hates me. Why? It's the fourth day. Everyone got the same thing. But he's reacting emotionally. His emotions, his sensitivity got ticked on, right? His antenna, his alert, his radar went on. I really was looking inside. He knew I was looking inside. He picks on me. He always does that. He goes home and he tells his father, Tati, you know what happened today? My Rebbe embarrassed me in front of the whole class. Really? Why did he do that? Because he hates me. You better call him. So from the outside, the father is looking at the situation and saying, this is crazy. Taka, new Rebbe, no experience. What's going on here? But when you're observing it from the outside and you see what's going on, you see it's so simple. This child, the UV child, which I didn't say before, this is the glass child. I spoke about this yesterday. Fragile, gentle, and needs to be dealt with differently. Let me explain it a little more. And this is what I wanted to get to. When we're talking about distinction and comparison, right, how this personality is different than this personality, let's make another distinction. And you can make a lot. I can make a lot, but I want to jump to one that's very important. In what way is the yellow, the blue, and the red similar to each other and different than the UV child? Right? Let's compare it this way. What is it about them that there's something common about them, which is interesting, because this one's a happy-go-lucky, smiley kid, this one's a gentle soul, this one's the one that's arranging things and making things. Something about them that they have in common that's different than the UV child. And that is that because, let's start with this side, because the UV child is so fragile and so sensitive, his emotions take him over. His emotions, his dominant component is the emotional component. So what's at the top of his list is emotion. And it's a regular kid, again, like I said, we're not talking about kids that are struggling, we're not talking about any kind of out-of-the-box situation that's unfortunate or we've been through whatever breaks a glass. We're talking about a simple, natural fragility. Right? Logic, very good. That's what I wanted to hear.
We have a logical reason to do so.
What happens is, even if a child gets insulted, and let's move away from children just for a minute to remind ourselves that we're also little children, right? Everyone has that same child in themselves, never got away from it. Somebody insults you, and it's insulting, it's humiliating, it hurts you. If I was in the middle of speaking now, somebody gets up and says something embarrassing to me, right? I'm not going to give away what I am. But if I were a UV, I might get thrown off track, overtaken by emotion, and maybe even leave the room. I get into it. I'm not here to fight with anyone. You don't like what I just said. I could be taken over and react emotionally. It's not logical to do that. If I were not UV, what I might do is, I might think to myself, oh, this is so embarrassing. I hope nobody realizes that I'm turning red. Let me try to look at my notes and continue on. Why? Is it because it didn't hurt? No. I have enough sensitivity in me to be hurt. I'm not immune. But it's not logical for me to walk away. It's embarrassing. It's going to look stupid. So even if I'd want to maybe, or even if there's something logical, like you said, that's going to be stronger than my emotion. If my dominant component, my dominant characteristic, my dominant part of my puzzle is the emotional part, then everything I will be doing will be flowing through the emotions. Everything I perceive, everything I'm looking at, everything I'm experiencing will be filtered through emotion. So when I'm in a certain situation, I'm in a certain relationship, I'm in a certain environment, I'm in a certain anything, the way I'm relating to that thing is emotionally. Is it feeling good? Is it feeling emotionally comfortable or not? Am I feeling emotionally comfortable with what's going on around me or not? If I am, then I'm okay. And if not, then I'm disturbed by it. It doesn't have to make sense. As opposed to somebody who's a different personality, right? And we're not talking about 1 in 10, we're talking about 1 in 4. Every fourth person. So while the yellow, the blue, and the red, each in their own way, are reacting to things in their own style, with their own color, on a logical level, right? The UV is reacting to things and responding to situations and the way he perceives things on an emotional level. Very big difference. Now, when I say big difference, it's not a huge difference. In other words, if you wouldn't know this, and some of you may have not known this till now, you wouldn't notice it on your own. Well, we all know, obviously, that between the kids, there's one that's easier, there's one that's not, but no big difference. At the end of the day, by the Shabbos party, we scream at them, oh, you don't sit down, you don't get your potato chips. Same language to all of them, but the same language doesn't really work to all of them. What you're saying to one person, he's hearing something very different than what you're saying to another person. It's like the Dara Fluga. Very interesting what Rashi says over there, right? The Eibishter mixed up the languages. You ever think about it? What does it mean to mix up the languages? If I'd be talking English and you'd understand Spanish, right? Then after 2 sentences you'd run away. You wouldn't think I'm saying something different than I'm saying. You'd realize you don't understand me. That's not what happened with the Dara Fluga. What happened? Rashi says, one guy asked for a brick and he gave him a hammer over his head. Why? He should have said, huh? Seemingly, he understood something differently than the person meant to say it. Isn't that interesting? When he said the word brick, the guy heard hammer over my head. So there was something about using the same language but being heard differently. I'll just throw an interesting story, reminding myself now that I read recently. There was a famous visitor of Baruch Ber, coming to Yeshiva in America. Faran Krieg, he came to raise funds for coming to Yeshiva. He came to New York City. He was in different states. He gave different talks and speeches. He was fundraising. When he came to New York, the mayor of New York then was Jimmy Walker. Jimmy Walker made him a nice reception in City Hall and gave him a symbolic key to the city. And he gave a lot of kavod for coming to Yeshiva, Gruen Tzaddik, Gruen. So Jimmy Walker decided to get up and give a speech in honor of the Rosh Yeshiva. And the Rosh Yeshiva didn't understand English. But he was going on and on, talking in praise of the greatest Talmudist that came from Europe to inspire American Jewry, and he was talking fluff and gornished, right? Like a guy would say. It was nothing for him to say, really. But there was a translator there by the name of Dr. Gordon, and he was a Volozhina Talmud, and later he went to study in college, a very learned person, and he was translating, so to speak, the Drusha that Jimmy Walker was saying in honor of Baruch Ber. But to spice it up a little so Baruch Ber shouldn't fall asleep when the guy's just a kite Wasser, as a gornished, so he was throwing in Mamura Chazal and Gemuras about how a tzaddik bu le'iri, hoide zi va'adura, fraten chitzluretz, and taher, and he was going on, and Baruch Ber was like, his eyes were popping out. You know, this mayor, this guy is saying a drusha, and this doctor is repeating something so brilliant and profound. He couldn't believe it. Als hij geendigt, so he sits down, and Dr. Gordon sat down near the Yeshiva, and the Yeshiva turns to him and said, Chassidde immer so oilem hab ich schon gehört, Goine immer so oilem hab ich noch gehört. I never heard it. Anyway, the Baruch Ber, it was his turn to say a drusha now for the mayor. So he gets up and he starts saying, you know, he wants to thank him for having him here, or whatever. And Dr. Gordon did the same thing. He got up, and this professor, now he's putting on a different hat of his, he starts saying different philosophical terms, and he's quoting the different literature and everything. It was like amazing. And Jimmy Walker, this Baruch Ber coming from Kamenetz, he thought he learns only Gemura, Bavli Rishalmi, and he was quoting all the famous scholars and all the Goyish literature. And when he sat down, he said, if I would have known what a great scholar, I would have said a whole different speech. He told Dr. Gordon. It's funny when you think about it. You see this in Shalom Bayit, you see this in Chinuch. One person saying something, the other person hearing something totally different, without a Dr. Gordon in the middle. It's funny, you tell a child something, right? You have a Rebbe telling a child, why is your finger not in the place? What did he hear? The Rebbe hates me. I knew he hates me. He never calls on me. Does he really never call on him? No, but that's what he thinks. And he's hearing something very different than what's being said. So while many children, and you're talking about 75% of children may be hearing things in a more logical way, you have those children that are hearing things emotionally. Now, any Rebbe that ever came to my course and learned this knows it to be a fact that in the worst class, I shouldn't say the worst, but in a normal class, right, where there are kids making trouble and you have boys that are difficult, how many kids are really the troublemakers? Every Rebbe knows. It's not 20 out of 30. It's 7 at most, or sometimes 4. It's always the same few. Why is that? There are children there that are emotional and sensitive and being taken over by something that's causing them to feel uneasy. And it may not be all of them. I'm not saying that all the children that are sensitive are feeling disturbed and anxious. Not at all. Because there are those of them that are comfortable. There are those of them that are feeling okay. Right? Not all the glass in this room is breaking now. As a matter of fact, nothing's breaking now for a reason. Any glass that's being taken care of in the right place, in the window or on the chandelier or wherever it is, it's just fine. It's the glasses that are being challenged. It's the glasses that somebody's by mistake leaning on, not noticing, not meaning anything bad. It's the glass that the guy who's yawning gives a punch to the window, and that's the one that breaks, because he didn't realize what was there. And this is the Rebbe not noticing what's going on. So even though when we talk about children that are unfortunately struggling and children that have reached different kind of problematic situations, maybe are coming from there, but now we're discussing simple, day-to-day, regular challenges that we have at home. We're going home to a family of kids. And there are some of them that may be more challenging for a reason. Let me just explain it another little bit deeper. The emotionalism, right, of a child or even of an adult, for that matter, is what may be causing him to want to feel very comfortable like we said. What does very comfortable mean? Very comfortable means that whatever's going on around me, I want to understand well. I want it to be something I can comprehend, I can accept. I want it to be something I was notified about. I don't want surprises. I want it to be something I had a choice about. Now, once you give me the choice, maybe I'll pick exactly what you want me to pick for that matter. But let me choose. Let me feel good about what's going on. I don't like being told what to do. What do you mean you don't like being told? You're only a kid. I know, but I still don't like being told what to do. And the same kid that when you tell him, go do this now, say, and you wonder, who taught this little schnook to go like that? Where did he pick that up? There's some resistance to just going along with what he's being told because he doesn't like being told. And you want to know something? His grandmother's the same way. It's not about a kid. He doesn't like being told what to do. He can't do something if he doesn't understand why. Or if he didn't get advance notice, for example. He doesn't want to go along with something if he's afraid of what's going to happen. Yeah, he's worried. He's anxious about the outcome. While a different kid has no problem. So what do? You say, come on, what's with you? Look, Avrami went, he's younger than you. That's the worst thing you could do to a kid. The worst thing you could do to a sensitive child is start comparing him and showing him you're inadequate, you're no good. And it's true, Avrami went faster than him. Avrami was able to go faster than him. And if he starts feeling bad about not matching up to his brother, then he has a problem. Or you have a problem, I should say. You should never make a kid feel like that. You should never make any kid feel like that, as a matter of fact. The blue child shouldn't either feel less because he's slower paced than someone else, like we mentioned before. And the yellow child shouldn't feel either less by being maybe a little less responsible or neat. Right? But those children may even get over it quicker. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about where to focus your energy, there are those children that need the most to be taken care of. So somebody asked me Friday was, oh, so a UV child is condemned for life? Sensitive child is what he's growing up with, very emotional. So the answer I gave was, well, is the window condemned for life? Right? It said fragile when you took it out of the box. Does it ever expire, that fragility? Well, maybe not. Does it mean it's condemned for life? No, it's not condemned for life. But for life, you'll need to take care of it. That's true. Now, let's be honest. I don't mean to say, right, that just like the window, it's just as fragile today as it was 10 years ago. And the day that you're going to give it too hard a knock or something hits it, or even a strong wind could break it just like it always did. It's not true. Because what happens is, when you raise a child, and you do it the right way, what happens is he's growing up, like we heard this Shabbos, feeling safe, secure, taken care of. He's being healthier. He's growing up, he's becoming more confident, more calm. And I could see it. I could see when adults come to me for help, and I see their personality, I could tell what they've been through based on how they're looking today with what they're dealing with what they were given. So it's not a question that when somebody's growing up in a healthy and safe environment, he's feeling better about himself. It doesn't mean that one day he'll be able to take the zets that someone else will be able to take. May not be. He remains more sensitive than someone else. So it's important to understand that what will work for one kid won't work for someone else. It's not a question. I remember this from Rabbi Ronnie Greenwald. I think I once repeated it in public. He said, he was talking about, we mentioned before, the cookie cutter education system, right? We like when everything matches up. He said, it's fine as long as you remember that there's different kind of cookies. He said, you have the round cookie, you have the square cookie, you have the star cookie, and you have the tough cookie. There are different cookies, and they're all different. And it's fine when you realize there are cookie cutters. Different children fit into different boxes. Well, not mamish into the box, but you could categorize them. But there's different ways of categorizing them. And it's so important to understand that child. Understand that when he says something, or when he gets stuck in something, and it's hard for him to overcome a certain disappointment or something that he's struggling with, it's okay. It's okay. Back off. Well, I have to? What do you mean? Yeah, I know. You don't have to. You don't have to, but you should. You should back off and realize, hey, why did he get stuck? Could be it was because I called him in to learn and he wasn't ready for it. Could be if I just ask him, when do you want to learn, now or later? Well, he'll for sure say later. Try it out, you'll see. He may not for sure say later. Or maybe the first week he'll say later, and the second week he'll say, you know what, let me learn now. He may not mind. You want me to say the Gemara? You want to say the Gemara? Okay, I'll say it. As opposed to, no, start saying, what do you do all week in Chayda? Nothing? There's a way to talk to someone. That's fragile. There's a way to deal with it. As a matter of fact, this is something that I'm sure everyone here can relate to. Fragility and sensitivity is not a problem. As a matter of fact, nothing that I mentioned up until now is problematic at all. Every child and every person has their strengths and their difficulties. The challenges, let's call it, not difficult, challenges, everybody. The yellow has his or her strengths that other people don't have, and the challenges that come along with that personality, and everyone does. Interestingly, the UV's challenges may be, in some ways, more, because it's more challenging to be dealing with things that are very intense and emotional, right, and they surround a person. On the other hand, the qualities of such a child, when taken care of, is unlimited. Glass is nicer than plastic, rubber, and wood. I'm not saying better, but nicer. There's a reason why you use a piece of glass, and a piece of glass is beautiful, right? There's something about that piece of glass that's stunning. And many people know that children that are struggling used to be the most outstanding. Why is that? There's something outstanding about that, and that's part of the fragility. Fragility, both when it comes on the emotional level and later psychological and everything else. I'm late? Okay, whoever wants, no, I'm just kidding. I'll try to finish up. Okay. Yeah, no. Let me just continue for now. 1 second. Fragility is what doesn't tolerate, right? Sensitivity is what doesn't tolerate. On an emotional level, if I'm very comfortable, I'm okay. If I'm not very comfortable, I'm not at all comfortable. The tolerance is low, okay? Even psychologically, when I want to understand something, if I understand it very well, it makes sense, I'm okay with it. If I don't understand it very well, that doesn't make any sense. There's something very, very black and white about it, right? When I'm successful, I'm doing good, and I want to learn 10 hours a day. And if I can't learn 10 hours a day, for whatever reason I'm struggling, I don't learn anything. So sometimes we don't understand the kid. Why is he getting so stuck? Come on, just move further. I don't know the Gemara, but what don't you know about it? You know it very... No, I don't know it. I don't know anything. There's something about understanding. Why is the child getting so stuck? He is stuck. His emotions are taking him over. It's okay. Tell him it's fine. If you don't know it, I'll say it to you. There's something about understanding and dealing with it. And when you take a piece of glass and you're careful with it and you cushion it and you wipe it and you deal with it the right way, you got something stunning and beautiful. Something that's more expensive than anything else. Because that's what it's really all about. So when we talk about parenting and we use words like twisted, right? There's nothing twisted about understanding how each child needs something else. As a matter of fact, if you do straight parenting, you may hit one on the head at most. You're not going to hit all of them on the head. You're always going to need a twist a little bit to reach someone. Not a question. It's an experience that I had recently with one of my UV children. I have a few. Wonderful, lechtige kinderlach. And sensitive boy, having bar mitzvah. And having bar mitzvah, I thought, because that's what I did when I was a bar mitzvah boy, that my minhag was to put on tefillin 4 weeks before the bar mitzvah. That's what I understood. And my Rebbe told Sav Mitzvah Rebbe was here from Yerushalayim 6 weeks before the bar mitzvah. So I told my son, what an opportunity. It's only 2 weeks earlier than expected. I'll ask the Rebbe if we could put on tefillin 2 weeks earlier, and then the Rebbe will be able to put on tefillin. What an opportunity, right? No, ich will nicht. Oh, why not? Well, if I didn't know a thing or two, I wouldn't have said why not. I would have said, ich hab nicht gefragt. Ich hatte gesucht. I was fragen am Rebbe. But no, why not? When the Rebbe do, alle Menschen kommen, big crowd, I don't like that. I'm not going to feel comfortable there. Little boy, right? So, was wollte ich gesucht, if I didn't understand anything or two? But fragen am Rebbe, mach dich schnarrisch, se gut nicht. It will be okay. You'll see. It will be fine. It won't be fine. He's not going to like it. He's going to resent it. He's going to remember it. Why would I do that to him? I say, you know what? If you don't want, you don't have to. You can tell me if you want to, but it's fine. It's not I won't even ask the Rebbe. Okay? And that's what happened. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I told him, okay, we're going to go to the Chastifke Rebbe, put on film 4 weeks before the mitzvah. A day before, I was talking to my father about it. I told my father, putting on film 4 weeks before the mitzvah. He said, that's not really our minhag. I said, oh no, I did that. Yeah, because of the circumstance, whatever, but that's not really our minhag. It's okay if you want. No. I told my son that, I spoke to Zaidi. Zaidi said it's not really our minhag to do it like this. So maybe we should take a wait till the mitzvah for that. If, once we didn't. I told my friends I'm putting on. I can't. I said, tell them that you must. No. It's okay. We're gonna go 4 weeks for the mitzvah. You put on tefillin. It's fine. Now I have a bunch of boys. I wouldn't have done that with another one. It's not necessary. It's nice to make every kid feel good, but you don't always have to walk on tiptoes. No reason. But with him, it's necessary. You have to understand where it's necessary. So what happens is, when you start understanding the kid better, you start getting a feeling for how much energy and patience you have to put into such a child. And all of a sudden, you see him thriving. You see him using his koach hanefesh. You see him being matzliach. And it's beautiful. Now, sometimes people tell me, well, I don't like labeling. We heard about that, Bashashi. You're labeling someone. So he's the fragile kid. Like, okay, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like labeling. They say the Chelem story about the Sharmas used to wake up the people in the morning, and they realized one time that when it snowed outside, it was beautiful, everything was covered in white snow, and the shamus goes and walks around the town and makes a mud track, like what's this thing? But he has to wake everyone up. What a brilliant idea. We're going to put the shamus on a stretcher, and 4 people will carry him around the town, and he won't have to walk on the snow. Sometimes we want to avoid labeling a child, for example, right? So you can tell me he's a sensitive child, and I had this with a malamed of my child, and I said, he's a sensitive boy. I'm sending you my sensitive child. Take care of him. Smile to him. By me, I don't like this thing. Why are you labeling him, right? Now I know that this Malamed labels kids. ADHD, anxiety. This one has, he's on the spectrum. He's already off the spectrum. Like, how many labels am I avoiding by telling you he's plain sensitive? There's nothing wrong with him. How many children have I seen labeled incorrectly simply because we didn't understand? It's simply a piece of glass. Nothing wrong with him. Nothing wrong. Yeah, but he gets intimidated when I ask him a question out loud. Correct. So why are you asking questions out loud? Hey, you figured that out already? So why are you still doing it? Why are you still doing it? Understand him. When you understand him, you'll see that you'll be able to avoid so much difficulty. And he thanked me later. You know, I have a way with your kid. I call him over. I see you doing so well, and he tells me you're a piece of music, and he knows it like anachas amachaya. And you know what would have happened? If he would have asked him the question out loud one time, another time, he wouldn't have been learning anymore because he couldn't handle it. It's too intense. And Taka gets frozen when you ask him a question. And Taka thinks he doesn't know it. And Taka gets stuck. It's so important to make sure he doesn't get stuck. So let me have another minute. Let me in 1 minute try to say what usually. Let me in 1 minute try to say what usually takes me 6.5 hours. Okay? What happens is, when you're dealing with somebody, right, and we're going to leave marriage for the side for now, okay? I'm talking about children. Emotions in marriage, it's almost as complicated, almost as twisted, right? We'll twisted spousing a different time, okay? Let's talk about children. When you're dealing with somebody that's inflexible, let's call it. Inflexible, naturally inflexible, right? It's hard to navigate, it's difficult. And this world's a hostile place, I spoke about that. Imagine if you had to drive down the highway without a steering wheel. How far would you get? The first curve, you fly over the way. When somebody's driven by emotion, it's hard to navigate and be flexible and tolerate and make room for things that aren't comfortable. It's very difficult. And this world is a very turning place due to circumstance and due to people around. It's normal. And we're all navigating and we're all avoiding difficulty all the time. So you have to remember that for such a child growing up on his own without people understanding him well, it could be difficult, very difficult. And he's the one that needs most to be taken care of to help him through those curves. They shouldn't be so quick or so dangerous, and this is why we hang signs when there's a curve. Now some kids have no problem with the curve. You see kids that change the neighborhood and they find a new school, right? So what happens is, getting back to what I was saying, you have a kid, a glass boy, I think the glass little chess piece, right? Little inflexible. What do we do with him? Well, we heard today what means flight and fight. Okay, very good description of what people do sometimes. Either we fight. Kid, he's being obnoxious. He's not listening. He's difficult. He's not letting himself be taught. He's not letting himself, get trained. He's not going along with the flow. So we're gonna fight him. You know what happens when you fight a piece of glass? So if somebody wants to get up and try it, you fight a piece of glass. You break the glass. You get caught. Nobody's happy. You have to deal with the damage. You don't fight somebody who's emotional because his emotions are going to take over and he's going to get defensive. He's going to fight you back. So what's the other thing you do? Flight, right? If you can't fight him and he's coming at you and he's not going to move for you, so you run away. Do your own thing. You want to be difficult? Be difficult. You want to wake up late. Do your own thing. Well, why not, right? That's what we would think. I'm going to let you do things your own way because I don't want to get in your way. It doesn't work like that. When you teach a kid to do things his own way because it's difficult for him to take authority, you're raising a kranka thing. He's going to grow up thinking he can do whatever he wants. It's not healthy. And you know what happens? Sometimes people make both mistakes at once. Well, not much at once, like one after the next. You first fight the kid, you scream at him, like we heard what that means. What's going to be with you? You wake up late, I don't want to wake you up anymore, I don't care if you get out of bed. And you're busy fighting him, right? And you're trying to get him, and he's getting more and more difficult. And then when you realize you're not getting anywhere with him anymore, you walk away and you let him do what he wants. So you damage the kid, very sensitive. He's going to remember that a long time, believe me. The UV child is not forgetting so fast, it goes very deep and affects him very long. And then you teach him he can do whatever he wants, so he's not even motivated to change it. So people make both mistakes. They flight and fight at the same time. So what do we do? Okay, so the answer to what do we do, I'll say in 30 seconds, because I already used a half a minute. A very fine balance is necessary, and it's a tricky balance. The balance between understanding an emotional child and taking care of him, cushioning him the way he needs specifically, different than other children. Which entails in itself two things, both not hurting him, right? Not humiliating him, not putting him down, not trivializing things that are bothering him, not telling him that you don't care, not hurting him in any way. And I'm not talking about someone who says, I don't care about you. No, but in his language, not hurting him. When he says, Tati, I need something, head off with it, you hurt him. He's very sensitive. At the same time, you want to make him feel good. You want to make him feel respected and needed. You want to use him. Actually, I was talking to a lot of parents this Shabbos, even with children that are struggling. Well, okay, I'm letting him do it. What could I really? No, tell him you need him. Use him. Ask him his advice. Tell him to do something for you, a small favor. There's almost no one that will turn you down for the smallest favor. Sometimes you want to make someone feel good. You mind moving your hand just a drop. Mama, just a drop. And then after the shit, you go, it really meant so much to me. I don't know why it was disturbing me. It's one of my things, like my crooks. And Mama had saved me. You made him feel good. What did he do for you? Nothing. You can make someone feel good with nothing. And you can make him feel good by making sure he thinks that you think highly of him. And when we're talking about little kids, healthy kids. And like Rav Unger said, Mama took it out of my mouth. I always say this. My client, what does he think you think of him? Not what do you think of him? No, I think he's a great potential. What does he think you think of him? Well, if I would ask him what you think of him, and I do this when I sit with boys, well, what does your father think of you? It's sad to hear what you hear sometimes. So if you can make sure that he thinks that you think of him highly, and the same with your spouse, you'll be getting a lot further with somebody that's emotional. So that's the first part, cushioning him. Cushioning him doesn't mean you letting him do what he wants, but you're first making him comfortable, and then there's who to talk to. At the same time, you want to make sure you're not tolerating things that shouldn't be tolerated. Healthy boundaries, knowing what you should be tolerating, how to express yourself when something's bothering you. Not, Shabbat, it's not about you, it's about me. It's my thing. It'll be so much easier for me if you do it this way. I'm so appreciative because you're doing this. I enjoy when you do something right. It's about me. There's so many healthy ways to make sure that the kid doesn't just go flying over the handle because you want to let him do what he wants. When there's that healthy balance, there's a healthy balance between making someone feel good and at the same time protecting yourself in a healthy way, not because you're in a fight, but because you're just trying to teach him, like till what's normal. And you do it in a healthy way, in a way that doesn't contradict. Very often people do these two things in a way that contradicts each other, right? I'm either going to be nice to you, or I'm going to show you that I'm boss. And you have people that do either one of them pretty well. They either know how to show the kid that they're boss, or they know how to be nice to the kid. To do it at the same time. I love you, you're a special kid, I really want to learn with you. I have now from 3 till 5 for you. From 5, I have a chavrisa. But I want to learn after 5. I also want to learn with you after 5. 5 o'clock I have a chavrisa. If you could learn before that, I'd really appreciate it. So you're teaching the kid, it's not your call whenever you want to learn with me, but I'm being nice to you, and I'm teaching you what yes and what not. I want to wake you up in the morning. I'll wake you up twice. I can wake you up either 7 or 7:30. 7:30 I have to leave. Should I wake you up with a hot cocoa? I'm willing to be nice to you up until where it's normal. I want to train you to what's normal while I'm being nice to you. I'm not going to fight with you, and I'm not going to tolerate. Such a healthy balance. Now, all kids could use a healthy balance. All kids could use a healthy balance. But so many kids could, unfortunately, when they need to, or when we're not as healthy as we should be, tolerate something that's not less than perfect. But the fragile child may sometimes have an issue tolerating that's not perfect. And even when you're trying to be perfect, he's dealing with friends and a Rebbe and siblings. He needs this special understanding. When I wish myself, if we could give that extra understanding to children, even children that are already struggling, and we try to implement a certain emotional understanding, and Blian Hara, very many, we said everyone's crazy, but sometimes you see even crazy situations, literally crazy situations, shulm bayis situations, bad, damaged situations, couples that have gone, I don't know where already, but just understanding it and starting slowly to implement, the feeling and the healthy attitude that could literally nurse a person back to health. I've seen it so many times. And I myself, with this understanding, try to, at least first, short term, before we are able to implement everything, and we should implement everything for all children, whatever we could, start with those sensitive children, give them the feeling they need, and I myself say nachas from alle in kinder. Ja,